Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Katie Dykes. I'm the Commissioner at the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So nice to be here with everyone here at Stratton Brook State Park to announce that as part of our continuing service to families across the state of Connecticut during this pandemic, we're pleased to be providing a reopening of swimming at many of our inland state parks beginning this weekend. So throughout the spring, throughout this pandemic, DEEP has been really proud to deliver on our mission of supporting outdoor recreation by providing spaces for people to get outdoors. We know how important that is during this time for people to have a chance to enjoy some time outside. We have some beautiful parks that are within a short distance, 15 minutes of every family in the state. Since Memorial Day, we announced that we were providing for swimming at our shoreline parks. And that's been very popular throughout the season. And we announced at that time that we were not going to be able to provide swimming at the inland parks at that time. As we've monitored how it's been going at the shoreline parks with updated information in consultation with the Department of Public Health and others, looking at the low infection rates and the great progress that we've made here in our state in reducing infections, as well as ramping up our staffing and getting other pieces in place. We're really pleased that we've been able to make this progress to support the reopening of inland swimming at these 8 locations. The locations are Stratton Brook State Park, where we are here today in Simsbury, Wharton Brook State Park in Wallingford, Day Pond State Park in Colchester, Gay City State Park in Hebron, Chatfield Hollow State Park in Killingworth, Black Rock State Park in Watertown, Hopeville Pond State Park in Griswold, and Lake Warmog State Park in Kent. Now, this is just a few of the parks where we do normally offer swimming. We are continuing to assess the variety of factors that go into reopening swimming, including our water quality monitoring, ensuring that we have adequate staffing, evaluating based on past usage and the kind of levels of visitors that we typically get at those parks, and we'll be making those decisions and providing announcements on further reopening as we go through the summer. But with hot weather coming, we know folks are looking for relief. We want to make sure that people have availability to get outdoors and enjoy swimming, not just at the shoreline, but inland. One of the other really important factors that we'll be looking at as we assess how it's going in terms of the 8 locations where we're opening swimming today, as well as the possibility for opening further swimming inland, will be on how the public is doing its part in following those social distancing guidelines to stay safe outdoors. So just as at the shoreline, for these inland parks, which have smaller beaches typically, we are continuing to ask folks to maintain 15 feet of space. When you put down your blanket on the beach, provide that 15 feet of distance between you and the next group. That provides you 6 feet on a perimeter around your blanket, as well as some space for people to walk in between. That's been really successful at our shoreline parks, and so we're asking people to continue that positive practice when you enjoy swimming at our inland parks as well. Another thing that we're asking the public to do is wear a mask. And I just want to really emphasize this and try to explain this in a different way. I think when we started off with the pandemic, of course, and encouraging people to wear masks, folks may have gotten the impression that if you're outdoors, it's safer, so you don't need to wear the mask. And what I want to encourage people is that these masks are one of the most effective tools that we have to reduce community spread of this virus. Being able to reduce the swimming, reopen swimming inland is in part because of the great progress people have been making in wearing the mask and keeping these infection levels down. But we have to keep it up, and we have to continue doing this right. And so when you're outdoors, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be wearing a mask. There are places and instances where you don't have to wear a mask when you're outdoors. That's when you're swimming, when you're in the water. If you're out in the middle of the woods, far away from someone, any other groups, hiking by yourself or with the people that you live with in your immediate family, you don't have to wear a mask. But in every other circumstance, I'm really asking you to be wearing the mask as much as possible. if you cannot maintain that 6 feet of distance between you and another group, you should have a mask on. If you're going to the restroom, if you're visiting a concession stand, if you're out for a stroll along that beach, encountering other groups, wear that mask. So it shouldn't be a question of, when do I have to wear it? It's more, ask yourself, when do I absolutely not have to wear it? And every other time, if it's a question of should I be wearing it, the answer is this is a really positive practice you can do. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family members. Do it for those small businesses that have just reopened and want to be able to keep staying open. Do it for those kids who want to be going back to school this fall. This is our greatest weapon to fight this pandemic, and you can be part of fighting that pandemic even when you're outdoors, even when you're visiting our parks and our beautiful beaches. Just a couple of other words. Another reopening that we're proud to announce is at Seaside State Park, which was closed earlier on during the pandemic. Will be reopening this weekend as well, providing another great beach opportunity and shoreline opportunity for folks to enjoy. We want to also share with folks that if you're thinking about going to the beach, and especially those shoreline parks that are so beloved during this time of year, make sure that you plan ahead. Check our What's Open Outdoors website, where you can find real-time information about closures of parks. We are continuing to limit parking capacity at our shoreline parks, many of our popular parks, in order to make sure that we keep the visitor levels comfortably where people can maintain social distance. And we provide that information real-time on our website, What's Open Outdoors, where you can follow along. If you come to a park where the gate is closed and the park's been closed for capacity for the day, it will reopen the following day, but have another plan. Don't get into a debate at the gate with our staff, with our environmental conservation officers. We are doing this to keep you safe. Please do not park outside of a park on a side street and try to walk in. Again, we close those gates when we reach that level that we believe is no longer, supporting safe social distancing. And so we ask you to come back at a different time, or come back on a weekday or at a less popular time of day, so that you can ensure you can enjoy our parks and be able to keep safe. At our inland parks, I also note for swimming that we will not be providing lifeguards. So we want to just encourage those messages for folks about staying safe. And water safety is everyone's responsibility. So for parents, watch your children. It only takes a few seconds to take your eyes off your child for them to drown, and this can occur silently. So please always watch your children. If you're more than an arm's length away, you are too far. Be aware of underwater hazards. Swim only in the designated areas. You'll see those roped off. And take a swimming lesson, or think about ways that you can improve your water safety this summer. And I'll also remind folks that at all of our state beaches, we do not provide no alcoholic beverages, glass, pets, or nudity, no flotation devices, only U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets, no snorkels, and we ask swimmers to stay off of buoys and lines. So these are just a few of those rules, but again, we're really excited. We've got some hot weather coming up this weekend. We're excited to be able to provide this as one more additional amenity that we know the public enjoys during these challenging times. So with that, I want to invite up Mike Lambert, who's our chief of our Bureau of Outdoor Recreation, in case there's any additional comments to provide as we go through this information. But thanks everyone for being here today, and then we'll take a few questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Lambert. I'm the Bureau Chief of Outdoor Recreation, and thank you for being here today. As the Commissioner said, we really need the public support as we change how we operate our parks this weekend with the opening of swim areas. I just want to reiterate that help us help you. If you do find a gate closed, if you do find a beach that's crowded, please find a different location. Our staff have been working very hard during this whole COVID response, trying to make facilities available for the public. So, please, for the public to help us to do our jobs better is critical in how we respond, and especially with this change in operation that's going to occur this weekend. So with that, Commissioner, I think that was really the point I wanted to reiterate.
Great. And Mike, can I ask you, with with all of these changes, I know people have been walking in Hammonasset or other locations. I mean, does that put an extra stress on your work, like on your folks, or how are you dealing with that and enforcing, because you already have so much else going on, like not just when it comes to parks and all your entities you are in charge of?
Sure. I think just for comparison, our use is up significantly this year as compared to years past. And just as a statistic, last summer our parks reached capacity 117 times. So far since April of this year, we've reached capacity over 350 times. And if you recall, early in the year, when our parks remained open, thanks to the leadership of Governor Lamont and Commissioner Dykes, our parks were reaching capacity in March and April. And so, it is a burden on staff. And that's why I think I want to reiterate the fact that the public needs to help us in our response. We typically, we do post our staff at the gate, and if we are at capacity, we encourage people to come back at a later time or come back tomorrow or seek other options. And again, we really need the public to help us in this response.
Rhode Island's lowering the capacity at its state beaches. They announced it yesterday, and they're discouraging out-of-state people from going. Was that a factor in the timing of this decision? Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it, so it's not like you just came up with it yesterday, but is that a factor in the timing?
Well, we are in constant communication between our states. I know we've been watching what's been going on and aligning and sharing best practices. We have implemented capacity limits and had capacity limits in place throughout the summer at our shoreline state parks, so we're in a little bit of a different circumstance there. I think that as we've been monitoring visitor levels and social distancing, we feel comfortable with where we are today to continue to stay the course with our approach. And but again, a lot of that turns on the compliance that we've been seeing from the public, their cooperation in maintaining those 15 feet of space, wearing the mask, and we're continuing to monitor that, look carefully. We've done so much hard work to get to this point in the infection levels, and we want to make sure that we stay that way.
Did you feel the need to announce this today, though? Because, they're discouraging Connecticut residents from going there. Do you feel like, okay, here's an alternative we were already preparing?
No, we've been working on this, frankly, since since late May, when we had to share with the public that we wouldn't be supporting the swimming inland. We've been looking at it, and again in communication with public health and others to assess what it would take, what factors we could put in place to be able to provide inland swimming. So this has actually been something that we've been working on for some time. So the timing is coincidental.
Do you share the Governor of Rhode Island's concern that this weekend in particular, given the temperatures, there's just going to be a swarm of people trying to get into beaches? Well,
we know, throughout the summer we are prepared for these types of, days that we're going to see in the high 90s. We know more and more people are going to be coming out. So not just for this weekend, but as we go through the summer, it's important for us that we can provide places for people to keep cool, as public pools that may not be available to people, as there are communities that, folks who can't make the drive all the way to the shoreline. These inland beaches, these inland swim areas are very important. And so that's why we've been looking to try to provide this. And of course, the more, one approach to this is, of course, the more things that are open, the more you can spread out the usage and be able to welcome more visitors and in locations where it's safer to swim, so that they're not choosing dangerous alternatives. So that's part of this as well. But again, as with everything throughout this pandemic, we're going to be monitoring how it goes. We're going to look for that compliance from the public. Are people wearing masks? Are they keeping that distance? Are these crowds manageable? And we have to make very real-time changes or update our operation plans in order to respond to what not just the potential that we see of how this could go, but in reality how we're seeing the public complying. So that's why we're in a constant state of monitoring and then adjustment.
For inland swimming parks like this, will there be a capacity? Is it a normal capacity or is it a limited capacity for this?
Do you want to speak to that, Mike?
Sure.
So give people a heads up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's part of the monitoring effort. We think that the capacity of the parking, we think that the swim beach will accommodate that parking capacity that we have. Again, the public needs to make sure they maintain that social distancing and wear their mask. But with this first weekend, we'll actively monitor that. But the areas that we've chosen, we feel like the capacity the parking capacity will actually accommodate the beach usage.
And is there any concern with, I heard Haddam Island, it might be, boaters coming out in full force. Is there any issue concerned with that, or maybe you could, we're hearing about an event, people want to go out to that island. I don't know if you've heard anything, or just you have the people at home listening right now.
Yeah, well, I think, what we've seen this year, actually I was on the phone with the Colonel this morning, all use is up. Tremendous use on the Connecticut River now. Large groups are out on the water, they're congregating, and, that's contrary to the message that we've put out there through our boating division. We do not want people to raft up. We want them to continue to maintain social distancing. We are going to do our part to have an active presence on all waters, and especially the Connecticut River this weekend.
And are you stretched, now I'm thinking you're opening more, are you stretched thin with folks, or have you had people who haven't been as busy because their parks are closed, they're ready to work?
Everyone has been extremely busy this year. And, you've heard the messages about, we still have a need to hire seasonal staff. We're still actively recruiting and hiring seasonal staff. The park supervisor here, is working alongside her seasonal staff to make sure that, the public has adequate facilities and they're open and available. But, there's still needs out there. All our staff are stretched thin. It's been a busy year, as you likely know, and it's continuing.
Can you elaborate on the decision not to open, to limit it to 8? I mean, is the concern that the ones that aren't open, is it more about water quality? Is it an issue about social distancing?
Mm-hmm. We've broken it down, been looking at every single location, but for a variety of factors. So again, about the size, the historical usage, water quality, all of those different factors come into play. But we're continuing to assess every single location, see how this goes, and look to be able to hopefully replicate this success and expand to other locations as the summer goes. But again, dependent on how things go. I think the other thing I really want to emphasize too on mask wearing is it's a real opportunity where we see improvement is in those gatherings of groups. So while we have, it is possible for folks to come and have those gathering in larger groups, that's really where we want to see the masks, because those groups are not necessarily folks, you're seeing mixing of people who aren't living in the same household. It happens, even though you may set your beach chair 6 feet apart from your neighbor. When you start to talk about a large group, it's hard to hear. People get closer, and as if you're sitting for the day and having that experience for an afternoon with a group, that can start to, some of those good intentions and the practices you start off with can start to erode over time. So that's where just getting that mask up and adding that into our normal practice when you're gathering in groups makes it possible to be outdoors and enjoy social time with other folks, but in a way that's going to keep us all safe and keep these infection levels low. So if there's one thing that I think we could really work on and do better, it would be mask wearing among those groups that are outside.
So we've been talking about capacity and specifically about what happens when the park closes and not to come in. But if I'm a parent at home thinking, where can I bring my kids this week? What should I do to plan ahead for that? And what should I do in that eventuality?
Well, as a mom of 3, the first thing I would say is if it's possible within your schedule to make it a day trip during the week, there's a lot more options, I think, and less risk of closures. I think the other thing to do is, again, check our deep website. We have over 100 different state parks around the state. So we've also got a social media campaign. If you go #CT Trails Less Travel, we've been promoting those undiscovered gems, those out-of-the-way places. I took my kids biking at Windsor Loch State Park, a bike trail that I'd never been on before. So much fun, and saw very few people out there. So really thinking about this as a time to try out new places that are less popular. And then if you are really intent on getting down to the shoreline and going to some of those the beaches that have been more popular, checking the What's Open Outdoors website for those real-time closure information coming really early in the morning, and then having a backup plan in case you find that the park is closed to choose a different location.
And then I think just to go off of the capacity numbers? I think people, you see the grocery store, they're clicking with the clicker. I don't know, Mike or Katie, or what's the best answer? But people have been asking us about, how do you figure out that number? I know you're assessing a lot of things, but do you have a specific number for Hammonasset, or do you want to be the XYZ number to get in first? Or how does that work?
So we've been doing this monitoring of visitor levels and with car counts in the parking lot since March. So every single park is a little bit different, and the supervisors there have benchmarks that they've been using for what is the type of capacity that is compatible with maintaining social distance, depending on the usage and the weather. But they're also watching what's going on in real time. So if they start to see that things are not going well, that the social distancing is starting to erode, then they can make that judgment. So it's not based on a strict number, but it's really watching, how people are doing, how things are going. One other thing, just a little tip at the shoreline too, is people tend to come down the boardwalk, find the location that's right near the restroom or near the concession area. But actually getting people to spread out more on the beach can be another great practice to get people more spread out and give them more elbow room. So that's another tip for folks. Anything you want to add on that? Great. Any other questions? Great. Well, we hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks so much for coming out.